All right, it's 3 p.m. and greetings to all the ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to kick off yet another thought provoking session on connecting the dots. First and foremost, we extend our gratitude to our esteemed speakers for their participation in this panel discussion. A warm welcome to all. Mr. Vijay Rane, Global HR Head, Milestone Inc. Mr. Setu Shah, Global HCM Product Strategy Director, Oracle. Mr. Maharshi Mehta, Head Talent Management HR, Linde Engineering India Private Limited. Mr. Shashidhar Ambatipudi, Senior Manager, HR and India, DEIB Leader at Pegasystems. Talent engagement is the strength of an employee's mental and emotional connection to their work and employer. Highly engaged employees are more likely to stay with the company and feel more fulfilled. Engaging and sustaining talent is a critical aspect of building a successful and thriving organization. In today's competitive business landscape, attracting and retaining top notch talent is essential for long term success. This webinar will explore effective strategies and best practices for engaging and sustaining talent, assuring that organizations can harness the full potential of their workforce. Our esteemed panelists would share their views on this insightful topic, engaging and sustaining talent. HRA welcomes you all on the session on connecting the dots. To know more about HRA and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our moderator for the session, Mr. Shashidhar Ambatipudi, Senior Manager, HR and India DEIB Leader at Pegasystems. Shashidhar comes with close to 15 years experience with careers in finance and now in HR. His journey has been through audit, IT services, and product organizations. In his current role, he plays Senior Manager HRBP and also leads the DEIB function at Pegasystems. Beyond work, he is a certified yoga instructor and budding ICF certified professional coach. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Now, without wasting much time, I will hand over the platform to Mr. Sashida. Over to you.
Faisal, thank you very much. And hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for pulling out time and making it to this session. I'm hoping you're as excited as I am. There are a couple of things I want to share before we get on to the details. Number one is, Faisal, I'll request you to keep the chat window open because just like previous sessions, we don't want to put a separate segment for Q&A. Q&A is open throughout the session for audience to keep punching in questions, and I'll be baking in the questions into my moderation as we go further. Well, that said, the topic by itself, firstly, let me tell you, it's not very new. Engaging and sustaining talent, I mean, every day there's a webinar, every week there's a report. Well, then what makes today special is the fact that we have panel of 3 members, very elite and close to 70 years of cumulative experience coming together to talk through from their lived experience on how they are impacting organizations and communities. So we are going to learn a lot on what worked, what's in store, and many other things. But the topic itself, from what Faisal has introduced, right? I mean, if you look at the current patterns, what are the big variables in our in our world of today? COVID has ended, the great resignation became great return, great redistribution, and several others. But fundamentally, the exodus of talent remains a topic of discussion everywhere. You take World Economic Forum, you take McKinsey reports, they're talking about the fact that this is not going to change anytime soon, right? Add to all this the skill shortages that are out there with the rapidly changing ecosystem where business operates. And this is not particular to any one industry. Gartner's 2024, if I remember, the CHRO priorities report, which I would encourage everyone to read, clearly calls out that the topmost concern for HR leaders apparently is to identify and retain talent. World Economic Forum, I remember, says that around 85 million skill gaps by the year 2025 globally. That's the quantum we're talking about. So the competitive landscape is fierce, and adding to all this is the rapidly evolving employee expectations of the employer. I have myself experienced it through the several interviews that I've done in the last 1 or 2 years, where individuals are now freely talking about the fact that they are okay with the equal or a slight pay cut, provided there are two things. Number one, flexibility when it comes to work timings and work locations. And number two, focus on mental health. People are very clear on where they wish to associate themselves. That is a huge learning for us. That's how the old dialogue around sustaining and engaging talent is about to evolve. Last but not the least, and it will be a disservice on my part if I don't talk of technology itself. Gen AI has done what many few things has ever done to the market, whether it is employees looking for jobs, whether it is the job descriptions, how companies are looking at getting work done, or how clients are looking at value. Everything is continuing to be disrupted. In a world like this, we are going to engage in a full spectrum conversation touching several things around what does it mean to really engage and sustain talent. With that, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists and really get to the conversation fast. Mr. Vijay Rane, welcome, sir. With over 20 years experience in industry spanning various sectors, Vijay comes from several grounds of experience, including IT, manufacturing, energy, KPO, etc. He's currently associated with Milestone Incorporated as the leader. In various capacities, he's been instrumental in designing and delivering global processes. And we're going to leverage a lot from his experience because he has seen several industries together, which by the way, is increasingly become a rarity nowadays. Right. So whether it's business HR, employee motivation, OD, talent acquisition, comp and ben, he comes with rich experience and is also a black belt in Six Sigma. So Vijay, welcome. Thank you for making time for this.
Right. Thank you, Sasi. Looking towards a very engaging session.
Sure. Absolutely. Great. I'm privileged to call on Setu Shah. Thank you for joining in. He's an accomplished digital tech professional, more than 20 years of experience, 2 decades. And his role of Global HCM Product Strategy Director at Oracle aligns very clearly with his passion for HR and flair for product management. So he shares insights through webinars, articles, lectures, very active in case you haven't come across. And I've had the privilege of doing several conversations. I believe this is my second, more to come, Setu, right? Apparently, he is also somebody who has deep interest in the art and science of storytelling, also has an interest in the entertainment sector. So we are going to hear out a mix of several skills and what it means for us to sustain and nurture talent. Great. Thank you, Setu. Lastly, we have Maharshi Mehta. Welcome. He heads the talent management at Linde Engineering India Private Limited. He comes with over 20 years of experience and worked in all major facets of HR in companies like Banco Products, L&T, etc. before joining Linde. He's a certified trainer for many behavioral competencies, and he has conducted several workshops, seminars, as well as spoken in conferences. Wonderful. He has a passion for soft music and is a sports lover with a soft corner for cricket and badminton. Well, that makes you truly Indian because cricket is in our blood, don't we? Wonderful. Thank you and welcome, Mr. Maharshi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, great. Well, I'm excited that we have a lot to cover. I did my best to lay out the spectrum and the further questioning will be on that. But for now, in the reverse order of how I introduce, why don't you take the first 2 to 3 minutes and lay down your thoughts on the subject itself? Maybe, Maharshi, we can start with you.
Sure. So, I think it is always difficult while a person like you who is moderating the session speaks almost everything that we were planning to. So the kind of subject that we are talking about, the kind of the difficulty that in today's scenario that we are facing with reference to talent engagement and a sustainability that we are talking about. And it's not only say in India what we are talking about. It's a global thing. Because my company is a German-based company, and this is same everywhere that we see that there is a dearth of talent. And even if you get talent, to engage them and then to sustain a business with their help is always a challenge. And I think today's discussion in and around this topic will help all of us to have a better insight into how this is managed in different companies, how it is being looked upon by different leaders and their own perspective over this topic. So thank you for
Wonderful.
inviting me, and I'm also here to learn a lot from people here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Setu, could we go to you?
Yeah, thanks a lot, firstly, for HRAI for doing this, and Sashi for asking us, questions throughout the session. So, on this topic, I genuinely feel that based on the numbers that I have seen, there is honestly a challenge in terms of finding the right talent at the right position and at the right time. I say this because, say, for example, globally, every one requisition or one open vacancy ends up having somewhere around 1:10 ratio, or that is 10 CVs for one vacancy, whereas in India, the average ranges anywhere between 50 to 100. Now, that's genuinely not just because, people are applying anywhere and everywhere, but at times there are a lot of vacancies or a lot of positions which have relevance to a lot of people. And that's where finding the right person for the job that you want at the right time and in the right level of position as well, that's become extremely critical. Having said that, that is obviously less than half the work done once you acquire a talent. A bigger challenge, as we are planning to discuss today, is onboarding a talent, nurturing a talent, making them productive, enabling them, and also retaining them. So I believe it's a quite interesting topic, and I think more examples that we all share. I'm happy to share and learn as part of this conversation as well. So yeah, excited about this.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Setu. Vijay, your insights, please.
Engaging and sustaining, I think this has been a very old topic. I've been talking from probably the time I started my career, 1996. The key important thing to me is the phases keep on changing, the situations keep on changing. So engaging talent 3 years back was completely different. With COVID, it became very different. And now it is again very different. So while we keep on talking about talent being or people being the key for any business, and we keep on having this kind of sessions and seminars where people come and talk nice big things. Everybody likes, everybody becomes happy. HR is known for giving talks. What I'm more going to look forward and talk in this session is how to do things. It is very easy to come and give gyan and lecture, and everybody does that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, how do we make sure that our talks, thoughts are really converted into work? They really are seen by people. That is extremely important, that people should see and realize. Otherwise, we keep on blowing our trumpets, saying this is done, that is done, but it's not there on the ground. You see in the large organizations, I mean, if you take the IT companies, the biggies, the 4 or 5 biggies were having attrition of 30-35%. And then the HR heads of those companies will come and talk about their talent management practices, which doesn't really resonate, right? And there's a few companies who, the examples we will keep on giving as the best organizations in India. But if you go and see a little bit more details into their attrition, into their talent management practices, or even the people practices, they aren't to that levels at all. So I think the key is going to be how do we make sure that we convert our talks into the real work and let our people, our organizations feel that. So that is what I would really look forward to contribute about in this session.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, spot on, right? What's the actual skill then the then the whole philosophical understanding. I think that's where we need to get down to. In fact, that's a good segue into my first question for you, Vijay. If we were to even approach this whole topic around talent management in our current context, given all the variables we discussed, what worked for you? How did you approach it?
So, to me, engagement doesn't start with HR. Now, a lot of times we pull engagement as our responsibility. To me, we as HRs are facilitators.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we understand what is really happening in the organization. A lot of times we are blinded by our thoughts about how engagement should be or what idealism should happen, and then we keep on talking, and then we'll blame, saying, okay, the head doesn't listen to us, the CEO is not people oriented, or we will say that okay, the culture is such that it doesn't change. But I think the key thing is understanding why the people are doing what they're doing. I think it all starts there. If we're able to understand why these things are happening, then probably we can start going and creating solutions for those people so that they understand why they're doing is either right or wrong, and how can then they do the right things from doing the incorrect things. A lot of times people don't even understand the word of engagement. I mean, how many of us would really define engagement properly? Most of the HR folks will say engagement is fun activities. I mean, engagement isn't really fun activities. Engagement is how closely the employee is knit with the organization. And for any employee, it starts with the manager. So how closely am I knit with the manager? So does the manager understand the meaning of really being engaged to the employee? It doesn't just happen with doing 2 reviews in a day, which is related to work. That will not lead to an engagement. A holistic understanding of the individuals really leads to engagement, finding out what the issues, challenges of those individuals are, and it can be related to work or anything else, and helping them out. That's where the engagement will start. That's where the culture becomes different, because to me, again, culture is what we experience every day. So if we're going to experience something not good, then we'll say the culture is bad, and everybody's experience is different. So my take would be, how do we make sure everybody's experience is good in the organization? That is what is going to build a culture and environment, and that is what is going to really make sure people thrive in those environments. So that is what I would really try and do in today's environment, because everything is fluid and changing. Suddenly AI comes into the picture, a lot of people's jobs are at risk. So how do we really anticipate this? How do we make sure that people understand that, okay, if it is not the normal content, how can they really make use of AI and do something better and be more productive? So to me, it's the environment which keeps on changing. We are we able to adapt, see, and prepare the people for that. That is what I would really do in today's world.
Wonderful. I like the one that you said, the relationship with the manager. They are the interface to the organization, right? Engagement really starts at that level, then really a fun activity. Wonderful. I have similar question for Maharshi in case you'd like to share, right? Where does it all start? And for your organization, maybe any specific examples you could give on how did you approach this whole business of talent management and nurturing talent? You're on mute, sir. Bye. Okay.
Sure, sir. I think so. Traditionally, we all used to talk about talent development, and there is where everything in HR starts. How do I ensure that my talent is developed? They are skilled, they are knowledge, they are able to give what they are supposed to back to the organization. But in today's context, yes, though we are talking about there's a dearth of a talent, but all those whom we are getting are not having dearth. They are skilled, they have knowledge, equipped with all the possible technology and knowledge that can serve best to your organization. So you recruit only them. So that's what is the take as of now for all of us. I think other HR leaders are also here and they will agree to it. But now what matters most to all of us is how do we manage that talent? How do we engage that talent? And how do we ensure that everyone who is getting up in the morning is not looking at a clock while they are in office, while they're coming to office, and while they're going back from office. It's the sign of an engaged employee who always feels happy of being part of an organization at any given point in time. And there is where all the activities, initiatives, any drives that you do, so far as culture part is concerned, so far as we always talk about top driven, but I think anything that company does which makes employee feel happy to be like attending office, right? That's the first thing, to attend office. If they're happy, I think that's a sign of an engaged employee. And the return that you get from those employees is awesome. And here is where we have to focus. And that is, as rightly mentioned by Vijay, it's not HR's responsibility. It's not someone who is sitting on a top management is responsible for it. But we always say at Linde that every line manager is an HR manager. So it's a responsibility of each individual to ensure that
Right.
whoever is working with this company is working in a family, and everybody in a family are equal, and everybody should have rights to speak, to share, to learn, to grow, and to stay happy. That's the culture that we always strive for.
Absolutely. Great, great. You touched upon something that's forming a question in my mind around hybrid people coming to office and being engaged, but I'll come to that for now. Setu, I want to turn to you now and give a spin of tech for all this. Talent engagement with improvements in tech and newer tools flooded in the market. What really changed? And any examples on where you have seen better talent management by leveraging tech?
Right. So I think just building onto something that Maharshi said. Maharshi, I absolutely second on one point that you mentioned about happiness. I have come across organizations where they don't have a CHRO, they have a chief happiness officer.
Right.
So that is prevailing, and that is happening currently as we speak. That shift as such. As far as technology is concerned, it's a great enabler, right? So I mean, you talk about solutions which are ready on a handheld devices to ensure that each and every meaningful touch point of an employee's journey or career within an organization, it's kind of being tapped into. So that is something that's coming of age now as we speak, where uh, uh, while we can't discount the human touch of a line manager, as Maharshi said, or as Vijay sir said as well. At the same time, the technology basically kind of helps in nudging the line manager and the employee as well, saying that, hey, it's been almost 3 months. You haven't caught up with one of your team members named Sashi. Would you want to have a discussion with him? And these are some of his key achievements in the last 3 months, or these are some of the things that he has been working on. Okay, so that's where, a lot of these touch points become very, very meaningful in terms of conversations. A second example would be, say, for example, Maharshi as a line manager has been talking to a lot of his team members within the organization. But say, for example, Sashi has not been engaging a lot with his team members. Okay. So that's where, say, for example, Sashi can see that, oh, I see Maharshi as a benchmark, and I see it in the system that he has been having, let's say, a 3 or a 3.5 average of point score of connecting with his team. And I have a 2.7. So let me see what more I can learn from him, or I can learn from others from the team and connect with the team. Or say, for example, an anniversary, a joining anniversary where I can just connect with my team and stuff like that. So a lot of these things were earlier only something that the HR had to do. Now the idea is to put in more and more of these powers vested with not just the line managers but the overall teams as well. Okay. So engagement is something that is pervasive across an entire organization. It's not just any one person's responsibility, or, as Vijay ji said, it's not HR's responsibility alone. HR is a
Yeah.
facilitator. But right from even before hiring a person, giving a candidate a great experience kind of creates a nice brand, and it exudes, the kind of culture that an organization has. I have been part of some of these interviews where I have seen a 60-40 ratio of an interviewer speaking versus a candidate speaking. So this is where even an interviewer is trying to sell his organization in a in a light-hearted way, but more importantly also to tell the person that what the organization is all about and what the organization expects from him or her. uh, Coming to next segment, I think as far as onboarding is concerned, I think we it's kind of an over researched topic. But even there, the idea is that by means of technology, if you are able to give a unified experience to your candidate right from interview to getting onboarded and to getting throughout his journey, that is something which is critical. The third and the last piece that I'll touch as far as technology is concerned is to make some of the aspects of your organization extremely rich and lightweight. So say for example, we all talk about competencies or skills. So according to me, at least, skills is a very lightweight aspect, as far as HR or an employee is concerned. And every organization over a period of time wants to acquire newer skills to tackle and solve newer problems that they face, that their business faces. And this is where something like skills, it can be pervasive within all the functions of an organization, right from hiring, onboarding to, say, for example, the entire talent management piece aspects, right from career development, succession planning, goal settings, or performance in terms of evaluation of skills, followed by your say for example, even absenteeism or leaves. So say for example, if I am approving leaves of 3 of my people, do I don't want to see that, okay, Sashi is going to get replaced by Faisal or Peterson. I want to see that the skills that Sashi has or which is required in the organization, is it getting effectively backfilled while Sashi is away? And that's where I'm very happy to give Sashi leaves, for example. Okay, so even things like absenteeism, or say, for example, in most of the service industry or product industries, you also have cases of creating initiatives or projects and having the right set of skills. And this also allows tackle some of the traditional problems that HR had, or maybe even current, like job enrichment, job extension, job enlargement.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of helps tackle a lot of those kind of challenges as well. So I think with that, I'll take a pause. These were the three
Oh,
points I wanted to add.
that's yeah, food for thought. Yeah, go
So
ahead, please, Marsh. Yeah.
this is wonderful topics, I think, brought in by Setu. Now, while we're talking about technology, I would just like to share that we normally have heard about a credit score. Like while you apply for a loan, we always talk about a credit score. Now, the new thing which is coming up in our field is about a feedback score. I don't know if some of you have already come across about this. There's something, a software which talks about how many feedback you have given in a year, how many feedback you have taken in a year, and what is that you have done. So it's all algorithm based and AI based, the software which is created, and a lot of companies are now going for it, and people also make it as a score to appear on the resume. So that's also something which technology is bringing to us on this table. So I just thought
Amazing.
I'd just say that.
Oh no, candidly, I didn't know about that.
Agreed, Maharshi. Yeah, that's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Just to
Well,
add, Marship, a lot of organizations already measuring employee engagement. I'm sure you would have heard the Employee Net Promoter Score. So that is absolutely a measure of how happy or unhappy or engaged or unengaged your people are. And I mean, most of the organizations, I'm sure, would be doing it. One of the things which in my few organizations we've been ensuring is, what do you do with that ENPS? So we've got the ENPS for each manager, and we've been trying to help those managers do engagement better. So over a period of time, those scores go up and they also feel good about it. So one another innovative thing which we've done in this organization is creating department squads. So these department squads are on the basis of the level of competencies, both technical, behavioral, the utilization of people, the engagement, all of that put together. There is a function-wise score which is determined on a monthly basis, and we're tracking how it goes. And it has various weightages. So depending on the organization needs, the weightages for those particular parameters vary.
Wow. Wow. Good.
How is it mapped? Is it through a system or
No,
something?
the ENPS is on a system, but the departmental squads, right now we're using Excel to do it. And of course, the Power BI part is used for the fancy dashboards, which we all need. So for that, the Power BI is getting used, but otherwise it is maintained on Excel.
You touched upon, yeah, go ahead.
So some of the things like ENPS or other scores come from systems, but the integration of all of this is done in Excel.
Got it. Yeah. Nevertheless, very powerful it's a powerful mirror, I would say, right? At any point in time. Wonderful. You actually started off answering the question I anyway had in mind, saying that if you were to get down to a level of examples, what's one or two innovative practices running in your organization? So departmental scores, ENPS, feedback scores, Maharshi, Setu, anything else, but overall, please add on any one or two examples that you have seen that are more contextual and more relevant for our times today.
So I'll just touch on two of these. I think broadly I described what were those. One of them is the touch point score or the engagement score at every line manager level, based on some of the examples that I gave. And that also gets benchmarked at your company level, at your department level, and at your peers level. So, I mean, not to put any peer pressure, but that's kind of a great way to maybe create a leaderboard of leaders, or say, for example, at least showcase it to different people in terms of how that gets done. The second aspect is people to profits. So I think we all talk about people analytics, and we all talk about how people are the biggest asset in any organization, and effectively the most agile ones as well. So this is where trying to trying to tap the untapped potential within your workforce by means of very innovative analytics in terms of, say, for example, showcasing different career paths which are, or newer career paths which are available within an organization.
Right.
Okay. Now, say for example, there was somebody who kind of did sales, moved on to engineering, then moved on to, say for example, customer support, or one of the administrative departments. So, I mean, these kind of stories would be very nice to have shared with the workforce and with the organization, so as to empower them and tell them that, your various career aspirations can be met within the same organization, for example. And there are various other, data-driven insights and data-driven decision making that can provoke and guide a lot of managers to take decisions, be it with respect to DNI, be it with respect to any kind of root cause analysis of why they are losing people, or how they can improve retention or productivity.
Wow. This mind is running in 1,000 directions for me because every point is so good. Maharshi, were you saying something?
Yeah. So while we are talking about two initiatives, I would also like to add two of them, which I personally feel is now has become a need for an hour. We always have been talking about a leadership. We keep on having a lot of programs in and around leadership. We send people to these schools and all to learn those topics. But most ever, we have to focus now on a word called followership, because Gen Z, Gen Y, what we are talking about, or anybody who is just coming out of the college and joining us, I think they're the one who are coming up with a solid knowledge bank. They're with a lot of enthusiasm, and they want to make a change. They want to be a part of a change that company is looking
Absolutely.
forward to. But how do we ensure that that is happening in the right direction? So there is where the term which is called as followership. So something which is known as leadership, now here it is a followership. And the other thing which I would like to bring in to for all of us is reverse mentoring. This is not a new thing which we have heard of, but we always talk about we need to give mentoring, coaching to aspirants. But at the same time, we also need to see that how reverse mentoring is happening. So all senior baby boomers were sitting upstairs. I think they need to take some kind of guidance and understanding, learning from the one who is coming up with a new generation. And I think if this alignment is done in a strategic way, I think then half of the success is already driven. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I am the beneficiary of the last point that you mentioned. I have enjoyed reverse mentoring sessions a lot. Thanks.
Me too. In fact, we do something called mutual mentoring in where I belong, where expert in different fields come together to gain from the other. Right? I learned tech from somebody very junior engineer straight out of an IIT, versus I give more insights around coaching, career management, self branding, new campus to corporate. How do you do, etc. Right? So we recognize back to the skills topic, right? We are bringing in experts in various fields, and how best can we pollinate that knowledge? Great. I like the fact that you use tech for nudges. I think that's coming big way, Setu. I really like that. Whether it is inducing peer pressure and fine with it, but that's
That was on a lighter note.
no, that's true though. Okay, great. I wanted to get down to the topic of leadership per se. Really, I mean, taking from Dave Ulrich, right? There are teams, there is organizational culture, and there is leadership that binds both of them, right? In a world of today, what do you see as fundamentally changing or evolving in the role of a leader? And by the way, I really loved it and made a note, the leadership to followership, that the tone change, right? It's a powerful thing, but let's dwell deeper into it. Any live examples? What's changing? What are you experiencing? Anyone?
I can start. In terms of, so your question is what is changing in terms of leadership, right?
Leadership, skills, approach, everything. Yeah.
Okay. So I think there were a lot of these things which were earlier there on the sidelines or kind of assumed to happen, but now are being explicitly called out. So, say for example, strategic thinking is going to be a strong is already, and it currently resurfaces as a strong leadership trait in terms of having somebody who is visionary, having somebody who is able to visualize and come up with newer things, newer initiatives, newer programs, or newer markets, and the likes. And something that kind of cuts across this is a data-driven approach. So now I think as we speak more and more, I have known quite a few organizations where the CEO's office is extremely large and has, I mean, all the Ivy League school and university folks, primarily looking at newer businesses, newer arenas, newer initiatives and stuff like that. So the leaders of today or tomorrow are focusing more and more on data-driven approach, and they now have a fairly rich and invested team trying to look into it and do that. Secondly, something that has made a very profound impact on me is one of the quotes from Jim Collins' book called Good to Great. So it says that get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people in the right seat, and they will take the bus in the right direction or to the right destination. So a huge focus on people. And this is where HR continues to be progressing more and more in the forefront in today's world. So these were the three topics that I wanted to share
Wonderful.
related to leadership.
No, lovely. I read the book Good to Great.
You are on mute.
I'm on mute. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
No, we still can't hear you, Sashi. Can anyone else hear him?
Yes, we are able to
We
hear you.
can hear. Yes.
Okay, then that's a
Yeah, we
challenge.
can hear you.
Okay. Right. In fact, I was just saying that I heard about Jim Collins. I read the book too. I think fantastic recommendation to our audience here. But Vijay Maharshi, anything else that you have noticed as fundamental shift in what leadership means today and how the people experience it?
So, Sashidi, in the old days, leader was supposed to know it all.
Yeah.
I mean, you lead with an example. Nowadays, I think that has gone. You don't really lead with with your knowledge. A part of the knowledge, yes, it is required, but getting the right set of people and keeping them engaged, motivated, that really is more key. That is what a lot of leaders are now realizing. Their job is more to manage a bunch of people who will drive the whole business. Then the job is not to just give the knowledge to people. I think that is a fundamental shift that has happened. Another fundamental shift that is happening is empowering the people below. Rather than saying, I know it all, you listen to people and then you analyze and take the best decision. I think that is one big thing which has been changing with the leaders. It is the leaders were allowing others to come up, give ideas, and execute it as well. So, to me, these are the key shifts that is happening. One of the major role of the leader is becoming to more and more inspire people. We would have all seen Simon Sinek talk about start with a why.
Yes.
So I think that is the key. And he talks about infinite mindset and a couple of other things which really inspire the people. So I think the leadership role is changing now from directing and telling to more inspiring and letting them lead rather than leading them. So that is the shift I am fundamentally seeing from last couple of years. And we've been trying to make sure that the people below. So to me, it is from creating, I mean, the leadership, one of the key parameters nowadays is how many leaders have you created rather than you being a leader? Have you been able to create leaders?
Yes.
Rather than creating followers? Are you creating leaders? So that is what, to me, fundamentally has changed over a period of time.
Wonderful. No, wonderfully said. Maharshi, anything from your side on examples of how we are now creating leaders, considering the definition has evolved, right?
But in fact, the first thing, means I sometime back I was just watching a video by Sadhguru. He was talking on how the leader should be, or what is leadership. So the first question that he raised was, who are leaders? If I say I am a leader, then who are you? So it's kind of not a word that you would like to associate to yourself if you say you're not a leader. So then what are you? So leaders is something they have gained a certain power with the way of having additional knowledge or the kind of vision that they have, the experience that they have. So they have grown up the ladder or maybe above a common mass where that person can guide someone to achieve better in their life. So that's the role of a leader. And eventually, if I see responsibility of a leader has not changed, it has not evolved over a period of time. It was the same while Shri Krishna was there, and it is same today also. It has not changed. The responsibility, the way of belongingness, the way of treating people, the way of expecting from people, the targets that they are setting for people, everything is same. Yes, what has changed is the way of communication. What has changed is, like earlier, someone used to say that "Aapko ye karna, you have to do this." Today, let us do it together. We can do it together. This is the only change in a tone or a language that has taken place. But a role and a responsibility is also the same which was earlier. And that is where I little bit differ from what you asked for. But yes, very rightly said that it has been evolving over a period of time, not the responsibility and a role. This is the point that
you create them.
Sashi, I have something to add on.
Yeah,
so Maharshi touched upon a very important thing, saying we keep on saying leadership is this, leadership is that, and this should be the leader, that should be the way leaders should do or not do. So in one of my organizations, we created a leadership model. So we used various philosophies, like we used a few things from Simon Sinek. We used a few things from Daniel Pink's model of mastery, autonomy, and purpose. We used principles from Turn the Ship Around, and we created a leadership model that had all the aspects of how a leader should be. And these were not taught to people. We created games around each one of those traits, and then those traits those games were played with the leadership team at various intervals, and then we asked them, saying, what did you learn out of it? And then we asked them, would they want to implement a part of it? Because some of the leadership styles of individuals are there, you can't change them, but certain things can be learned and modified, which can really make them a better leader. So that was one of the examples of really trying to shift how the leaders, and a lot of times leaders have to be built. Some inherent capabilities are there, of course, but others have to be built in. So that was one example. Setu touched upon a very nice this thing about how people can get exposure to various areas and before really finalizing and going into a particular area of their career. So in one of my organizations, we had a program called Exposure. People could apply and choose to work in a different function. So once in a year, it would get opened up, and people say somebody's sitting in engineering function and they want to understand how HR works. They can actually apply for HR. A basic interview would be done by a cross-functional team, and the person would actually be moved to HR for a month. And then the person can go back into their functions, and then they can get exposure to various functions. And ultimately, the person can come back and say, okay, I am really interested in this. This is where I want to build my career. And then when IJP opens up, the person would apply there, and then the person can go into that function. And a lot of people were able to get into that. And we had some phenomenal other practices there. The resultant was 1% attrition. I think that was the lowest in my entire career, because at a point in time, we allowed people to choose their managers. So what better than and I think it is unthinkable for most of our HR folks, right? The first question would come to our minds is, oh, the heads will not agree. Oh, the managers will not agree. I mean, but we don't think, how would we make sure that we get these things done? And it is possible. If we really want, we can make out execution strategy. We can go to the people, convince them. But then the mindset change that happens across the organization is phenomenal. That if I work with a person who I like to work with, I mean, that's going to be a very different equation for both. So to me, that's where the culture and the leadership actually starts. Are we really thinking about the people? And if you're thinking, then are we doing something drastic to really change those things?
Right, fantastic. You know what? We tried the whole Choose Your Manager program, and it actually worked out pretty well. It wasn't. I think we over anticipated the troubles, but people were willing, and managers' persona evolved rapidly than what we assumed. Actually,
Absolutely.
agree. You know, I really want to get in touch with you on the leadership games piece that just hit me. But okay, in the interest of time, I'll move out, and I know we are at 3:49. Maybe one round of questioning, and audience, I would request you to just post your questions. I will still have time to add on. But I want to bring the topic of Gen AI into the whole fold of what's changing when it comes to engaging and retaining talent, especially, say, for example, if we were to pick up the topic that all of you have touched upon, employers selling the organization to employees, right? If you have to touch upon the employer value proposition or the branding per se, right? So Gen AI as the layer, as fundamental, any talent management practice, but would request one of you pick up the whole EVP piece as well and really share what are you noticing, any live examples that you would like to share. Yeah, maybe Setu would like to start with that, Gen AI. Yeah.
Sure. So I mean, the first notion of Gen AI actually brings a lot of happiness and scare at the same time. Right? Happiness saying that, okay, Gen AI is going to do my work, and scare is again the same thing, that Gen AI is going to do my work. But I mean, factually, we are not there yet, right? We as an entire industry are not there yet. What it can help us to do today and for the near future is help us with the blank page syndrome, right? So we all, if we all have like a blank page in front of us, we all kind of struggle. Oh, where do I start? It's the starters problem like we used to have in our older scooters, for
Absolutely.
some
Yeah.
of us. So it
Yeah.
helps us with that. And I've seen now as we speak, I think the entire industry is on the bandwagon.
Mm.
Every player is kind of coming up with interesting use cases, and some of the use cases that I've come across, it's quite exciting. So something where it helps you to engage your employees. I already touched on it in terms of, say, for example, making all of those employee touch points meaningful.
Mm.
Okay, and also, say for example, celebrating some of those touch points wherever required. So say for example, on a hiring anniversary, a celebratory message kind of comes up. The manager kind of tweaks it, personalize it a little more than what it already is, and thereafter sends it across. Secondly, say for example, it helps a lot in terms of serving the employees or a user in terms of HR service delivery. So this is where, be it a bot or be it
Mm.
an HR help desk personnel, kind of based on the query that he or she gets, they have something fetched from the policy document, referred, and automatically a template made ready
Got
for
it.
him or her to view, rephrase, and reply. So that increases the productivity by a very, very large quotient. The third aspect where I have seen it add a lot of value is, I think, over a period of time in talent management, we all have started talking about team level performance and team level goals. Okay.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
when you have a team level goal, obviously, you would want to understand the performance of the entire team. And when, the span of control is slightly larger than three, I mean, we all can imagine that filling out one performance document is such a pain. You can imagine reviewing all the performance documents,
Yeah.
collating it as a manager, and then trying to fill out team's performance is such a huge task. So this is where, say, for example, generative AI can basically go to each and every team member of yours, and anybody else who have worked with you on that team, as part of some, as Vijayji mentioned, maybe a gig, as a one-time exercise, or maybe as a cross-team collaboration, and kind of create a report for you pre-fed. So that gets you over that blank page syndrome. It gets you some of the interesting pointers to
Mm.
kind of work with,
Mm.
and
Mm.
as generative AI helps you to be more productive and more engaged.
Wow.
So these
Great.
were, a couple of quick themes that I wanted to share. One bonus one, I think, over and above what Maharshi mentioned as well, wanted to build on that is a lot of surveys and questionnaires and feedbacks today that come. Now, as important as these surveys or feedbacks are, equally important is the way some of those surveys and questionnaires
Mm.
are structured. As behavioral coaches, in bits and pieces, I think a lot of us know that if you have a series of happy questions, you continue to get happy responses. If you have a series of not so happy questions or negative questions, you end up continue to getting negative responses or lukewarm responses.
Mm.
So that's where I have seen generative AI creating a questionnaire or a feedback form for you based on the objective that you have in mind,
Yeah. Yeah.
be it gathering employee satisfaction score, employee value system related aspects, across a lot of these. If you give it a nice description, it can create questions for you and those multiple options, where I think that becomes an interesting prompt for
Mm.
all of us to kind of tweak further in line with our experiences and then push it off to our teams.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Limitless possibilities, but limited time. So I'll move on to one question we got from the audience. How can organizations involve employees in decision-making processes to enhance engagement? Great question and very
I,
apt
I
for the
have
Gen
I
Zs.
have a very nice
Yeah.
solution or something which we've done.
Mm.
So when we hire a new person, we have them on probation, right? So we can have our newer policies on probation for a certain period of time, get the feedback from the employees, and then implement them.
Wow.
Also, anything which impacts them, for example, their gifts, there are newer policies which come, the leaves, we can get people to vote on this. And I have seen this wonderfully works. People really become happy. They say, this is going to impact me, and the organization is asking me what to do. So that really works. We can have those kind of a things to make sure that we are really involving people into the decisions which impact them.
I agree on that. A quick short example on that one, Sashi,
Mm.
in the interest of time, obviously. In one of the big four organizations that I worked in, they had this design thinking approach percolated across about 20,000 employees in the organization. Okay, and that's huge, right? I mean, 20,000 employees involving them in decision making. So they had about a 3 months exercise in terms of identifying, solving three key problems that they had in terms of designing a new performance appraisal or a performance management system. And these three pointers that they had across 3 different months, they had themes run. They had a lot of people vote, engage, share messages, play some games, etc. They actually created an app that people could download and participate and engage in. And in order to do that, they also had the leadership involved at various levels on
Mm.
once in a week thing where the leaders came in, they spoke a little bit about what they were doing, what problems what the problem of the month is, how does that impact their specific department and not the entire organization. So that was an amazing design thinking approach that I experienced personally, and
Marvelous.
it came up pretty well. Yeah.
Marvelous. More questions are coming, but I think we'll have to take them beyond the session. Maybe I'll share it with you for your inputs and then reach back. Faisal, I'll take your help on that. But Maharshi, any conclusion thoughts from you before we wrap this session up on any of these questions?
So I think the two last things which we discussed, I think about AI.
Hmm.
So there's nothing to fear actually. We being human being, I think that's something which is created by us. So there's nothing to fear about. The only question we need to ask ourselves is like, what is real and what is artificial? So we are the real and something is artificial in front of you.
Yeah.
And second, whom do you like to shake your hand with? Is it robot or a person? So a kind of feeling that we are talking about. While we talk about human resource, it's all about feelings and someone's like we are talking about engagement. What is that engagement? Engagement is anything and everything that makes people happy. The point that I started with,
Yeah.
and I'll add it also the same. And that is only possible if we are ready to understand each other.
Awesome.
And that's only possible if we have dialogue with each other. And that is only possible if we have some kind of mechanism that this takes place on a regular basis. While we talk about remote, I think there was some question related to remote working also, which was flying around on the screen. So that's also something which we need to focus upon. Every now and then, companies are coming up with some of the other technology, some of the other possibilities wherein they can help their employees to function from anywhere for anything.
Right.
We have a remote working policy in place in our company. While we're talking about a decision making, I think this entire remote working tool that was developed was keeping in mind all the level of employees in our team who were actually involved into making of this remote working tool for us. And we take regular feedback. So we have implemented first for 6 months. Then we say that we'll have a survey done. If it is working well, if it is not being misused, if it is giving the result that we are looking forward to, we will continue. If it is not doing what we are expecting at organizational level, we might have to take it back or we might have to put up some guardrails there. And that's how I think decisions are taken. So this is an inclusive decision that we are talking about,
Right.
engaging people in decision making, and overall making people feel that yes, organization is nothing but a bunch of people making it an organization. So we are the one who make it happen, or we are the one who take it to the apex level that we are looking for. That's
Absolutely. Spot on. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, my page just got filled. It's not visible, it's blurred, but with so much of ideas and thoughts, I'm sure our audience too. Faisal, I would now hand it over to you.
Sashi, we are looking for you to compile those notes and share it on LinkedIn if possible. Yeah, would love to.
You know what? You're right. Actually, it makes perfect sense. I'm going to make these into bullet points. I'll use the AI and maybe I'll post it right under our HRAI LinkedIn post so that everybody benefits. Great thought. Faisal, I know you always ask me for the last 5 minutes, but sorry, there is so much to talk that I couldn't. Over to you.
Sashi, just one more critical point, which we were talking about, how to engage in the remote work scenario.
Right.
So I think one of the key things is, and I would like to really give this example here. How many of us are even turning on our videos? I don't know what other person is thinking or seeing or feeling.
It's a rating question.
Until and unless we do that, we can't expect the people to do. We as HR, we have to start doing that first. So I think most of the things start with us. AI, I am not sure. I always, in any of the HR conferences I attend, we start talking about automation. And we call automation as an enabler, but it becomes 70% of the topic of conversation. So if it is an enabler, why are we talking about it? Why are we not talking about the humans? The difference between AI and humans is going to be the emotional intelligence. So I think one of the key things we have to start thinking is, how do we really start going away from being really artificial to being really emotional with all the values of human being, and then making sure that we really engage, and it starts with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Spot on. Thank you. Thank you for that, Vijay. All right, Faisal, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shashi. So before we close the session, we will be running a poll to have the participants' valuable feedback on this session. Thank you, Mr. Shashi, for guiding us through this session with your intuitive and perceptive insights. Expressing our gratitude to Mr. Vijay, Mr. Setu, and Mr. Maharshi for generously sharing their valuable thoughts and perspectives. It has truly been an honor to have such distinguished speakers contributing to this engaging session. For those eager to learn and grow, the recording of today's session is available on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. As we wrap up today's session, a special thanks to our event partners, Geisha, NASSCOM COE, Talgro, TLE, WICCI, and LinkedIn Local. Please visit the links provided in the chat window. Join us for our upcoming session on Connecting the Dots on 29th Feb 2024. That concludes today's webinar. We look forward to your participation in future sessions, wishing you continued health and safety on your journey. Until our paths cross again, take care, stay positive, and farewell for now.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Shashi. Thank you, Setu.
Thank you, HRAI. Thank you, Sashi. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.